Hello, my name is Nitya and we are going to be talking about organization culture today. Organization culture is one of the limiting factors that managers have to work under. An organization culture determines the internal environment of the organization. So, what does that mean to a manager and what is organization culture? Organization culture can be defined as the shared values, principles, traditions, and ways of doing things that influence the organizational members. Now, we often speak about culture in terms of countries. For example, we talk about the Indian culture, we talk about the American culture means. What do we mean when we talk about these things? It is generally when we say that a lady dresses a certain way, that is a Western culture. Or when a person doesn't respect the elders, we say that is not the Indian culture. What do these things mean? These things mean that we actually, as a society as a whole, accept certain ways of doing things, and then we form a system of belief amongst us that defines our culture. Now, similarly, for every organization, there is a system of beliefs that the organizational members share, which is the culture of the organization. This culture could be strong or it could be weak. Now, what are the important characteristics of organization culture? The first is that an organization culture is often perceived. It is not something that can be quantified, or it's not an object that we can touch and feel. It is a perception that we can often know when we are looking at but cannot describe effectively. It is often shared, which means that if only one person in an organization feels a certain way, it cannot be described as a culture unless it is shared by all the members of the organization. Now, what does a strong organization culture mean? A strong culture often means that the values are widely held, most of them share it, and they are intensely believed in. Everybody strongly believes in those values. Now, what are the dimensions of organization culture? Organization culture can often be characterized by 7 different dimensions. The first is attention to detail. The attention to detail describes the degree to which the organization places importance on the tiny nuances of the work that an employee does. For example, in organizations such as Apple or very creative and innovative companies like 3M, if people are looked upon for every small detail of work that they do you think it would be possible for them to be as innovative and creative as they are? Well, definitely not. So people need to be given the space and the time and energy to work on their pet projects, on their creative pursuits, so that they bring out the most innovative and creative aspects of their work. But in what organizations do you think that attention to detail is very important? It would definitely be important in organizations where quality is very much essential. Say in a Toyota car manufacturing plant, in the assembly line, if workers were allowed to do every aspect of their job as per their wish and allowed to be as creative as possible when they were working, that would not be a very good way to work. So, in Toyota plants where people are working and assembling cars, they must have a good attention to detail. The second aspect is outcome orientation. So, how much importance do the managers or the top management in the organization place on the outcome or the result of the employees' actions? Now, you might be wondering, isn't it important in every organization that outcomes be reached? Definitely yes, but in some organizations the outcome is more important, and in other organizations the process of achieving the outcome is also important. Certainly in some organizations, although some employees may not develop a very successful product, if the management feels that they are on the right track and they are doing their best, and the product failed as a result of several other factors, they would not penalize the employee. But in other organizations, even if the employee was right and on the right track, if the outcome was wrong, then definitely the employee would be penalized. Now, this would definitely change the amount of freedom or the fear of failure that an employee feels in the organization. The third aspect is people orientation. It is the degree to which the management decisions are focused on the people in the organization. For example, in many organizations, there has been a recent trend towards being more people friendly and focusing more on the people aspect of doing things. And it is very important because human capital actually represents one of the most important competitive advantage that cannot be replicated or imitated by other organizations. So the degree to which the decisions of the organization take into account not only the bottom line or the financial results but also the people aspect of things is determines how oriented the culture is towards people. The fourth dimension would be how oriented the organization is towards teams, team orientation. If most of the work in the organization is focused around teams or grouped on team basis, then that is an organization that is more team oriented. For example, even in Indian organizations like the Dabbawala, where the people who work there are not really educated and may not know what they are doing, they are organized in teams, and every team knows from which point they have to take the food carriers and take it to the next station, and the next team takes up the food and takes it to the office. There is a very good coordination that goes around, and that is the result of a very good team orientation culture. The next dimension is how aggressive the culture is. Is it that everybody focuses on being successful and achieving the end results, or is it that more collaborative and cooperative environment is focused? If it is a very aggressive culture, it may not always be a negative thing, but then it definitely plays a role in reducing the amount of collaborative and friendly and open environment. In recent times, knowledge management and sharing of information has gained a lot of importance, and in cultures which are very aggressive, it might have a negative impact on sharing of information. The next dimension is stability. How much do we value stability? Now, in certain industries like banks or companies which have been functioning for a very long time and have a very strong ethics and value system, they may not appreciate a very dynamic and a decision that plays a havoc on their value system. So, if the degree to which an organization wants to remain stable and remain successful is the dimension of stability in the organization culture. The next dimension is how innovative and risk-taking can the culture be. If the culture values highly innovative and risk-taking behavior, it obviously is opposite to the previous dimension of valuing stability in the culture. So if you either want to be very stable, or you take the chance and you want to be highly innovative and creative. Now, organizations such as 3M, which I have already mentioned, value creativity to such an extent, and even at Google, the famous 10 or 15% of the employees' time is given to work on their pet projects. So these are the dimensions of organization culture, and any organization's culture can be characterized on these dimensions.
10 minutes. Very amazing. Your language and all the way you explain.